How do mechs work? Okay, it seems quite complicated at first, but what we will be attempting to do is simplify something that is complicated and have a hands-on approach on the actions of sketching mechs. You see, there are many ways you can sketch mechs. Some search them through shapes, some just use building blocks, primitives, tools for extruding certain parts, maybe adding, subtracting. All of this is useful, and that is already a lot, to be fair. Let us check on the main components, simplified of course, because mechs can always have more components and it's always good to add this disclaimer. And hence we're going to talk about the more simplified side of mechs. We need to understand these four main parts: skeletal structure, joints, function, and aesthetic. What we will focus in this specific video will be three main ways on how to sketch mechs. So it's more about sketching than actually anything else. We will focus on sketching because we will discuss about the iterative process, the part that is the most important in seeing what you can come up with, accompanied with a part on this video where I show a process of designing mechs using gesture, focusing less on functionality and more on aesthetic. Working with lines mean usually more structure is implied, making us to visualize clearer and have more weight behind our intent. Sketching a mech with line can be of course challenging. It can push you to try to sort of visualize everything from the beginning. What you can do to make things easier here is to start working with primitives only. You see, using primitives clarifies certain parts in the beginning. It does not solve all our problems, of course, but it puts us on a track to understand how we can solve everything we'll have to deal with next. This means that using simple building blocks makes everything a lot easier. The next thing you should worry about are joint systems, but we'll talk about that later. Designs comes into play after we lay out our main structure and establish a hierarchy of the process, making everything a lot more manageable, solving one part at a time. After we manage to get a good looking base, we continue adding line to build upon the design we want to create. This can take us a long way to check our design, but also getting us in a short tip about color. And here we go about using analog colors on mechs. That can actually be really easy. Usually analog colors are 3 or more colors that are next to each other. Using analog color is quite simple and is all about how do you actually manage your color proportion. 80-20 is something I usually choose, but you can choose anything but 50-50. And even in that case is not 100% a hard rule, because complete balance in color might be something that one does to emphasize the balance in a deliberate manner. Now let's go into working with shapes. This means usually less structure is implied, making us a bit more exploratory, giving us some leeway in making our intentions more flexible. This flexibility helps us to change our mind quicker. This process is more like a searching process. Sometimes you might just go and sketch for an entire hour, and maybe with a bit of luck you end up with something that is actually cool. Well, you'll have two big options here, and I'm going to go about and explain that. Number one is to embrace structure. So through shape, you try to embrace a structural approach to shape, where you want to build a more structured thinking process before working with shapes. Meaning you can actually create bases, you can actually create structures to help you to build these blocks with shapes. And number two is to embrace exploration, so you can adapt and change your mind fast, to quickly explore and problem solve. There are other options, of course, such as deliberate problem solving, using subtracting techniques only, using additive techniques only, etc. But this goes more into understanding like design principles and thought processes behind them. If we go about understanding the structured approach, remember with line we talked about primitives. Now we use the primitives and build them with shapes. And in this part we can have a certain play of shapes, either exaggerating them, pushing them, pulling, and so on. Or maybe better explained, we go through simplification of certain parts to create building block processes. The iterative process by creating and combining blocks is a structured approach with shapes. Now on the other hand, if we go about embracing exploration, it puts us in a mind where we search for what works and what doesn't. For people that have a hard time designing, this process will seem usually harder. There will be a separate category of individuals that will absolutely do well from an intuitive standpoint on this case, but those people are the exception, not the rule. Searching for solutions can be quite complicated. There are appealing shapes out there from an aesthetical standpoint, as you can see in this example, but if one relies only on this, the exploration will be confined within these shapes only, creating a sort of repetition in your process. And what we want to do truly is to be creative. Starting with these shapes and understanding them is still a good base to go with, therefore please take them and make use of them. Now let's go into the conversation where we discuss about how to work with gesture. This is usually focused on dynamism and less structure, so therefore probably we'll have a conversation about aesthetics rather than full-on structure. Working with gesture on mechs might not come natural or easy. I mean, why would someone do that? Spoiler all, gesture is a tool, and as any tool out there can be applied to multiple areas. And in our take here, Mechs is something where we can apply gesture. When you use gesture, dynamism and movement becomes a primary dimension. Focusing on this primary dimension gives us a clear idea on what we should do, and we just do that one thing. After we do the first build-up of gesture, we move to the structural side and try to add structure to the best of the ability that we have. Again, we're not solving for perfection or hyper-accuracy, we're solving for a cool-looking dynamic mech. Things such as mirroring and other tools are used in building the mech can become active as well to keep things clear at the best of one's ability. Usually, if you want to clean up certain parts, it can be easy with line and even color and the rendering for that matter. Adding some shading to the dynamic structure can help us to see how we can build volume. And if you truly like to design mechs, here is a quick tip about joints. Because I believe joints are extremely important when it comes to mechs, and that's why we have joint systems. And here you can see a variety of joints that can be used to attach to your mech designs. And now hence we're at the end. I hope you guys enjoyed the entire video. Please like it, please subscribe it, and please hop in our Discord to ask more questions about mechs if you're curious about it or any other questions relating to art. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this video.